Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of This Week in AML. I'm John Byrne, Chair of the AMLRS Advisory Board.
And I'm Elliot Berman, our Creative Director. We are excited to welcome you to the This Week in AML podcast,
where we explore key news and developments in the global financial crime prevention community.
Hi, John. How are you today?
Hey, Elliot. How's it going?
Good. It's a beautiful day here, and we've had a run of nice weather here in the Midwest, so that's a good thing in late spring, early summer. So
we're full summer here. It's already 95 degrees. It's DC. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Just so you're running earlier in the morning to beat.
Yes. That's a must. You can't go be running at noon around here unless. Well, we'll leave it at that.
Right. So recently, the acting comptroller of the currency, Michael Hsu, gave a speech at the DC Blockchain Summit, and he titled it "Crypto: A Call to Reset and Recalibrate." Did you happen to see the transcript of those remarks?
Yeah, I did. And I think one thing that we constantly struggle with in the AML community is trying to figure out, as we did years ago with, money service businesses, where currency exchanger or crypto exchangers and others sort of fit into our world. And while this is broader than that, his comments are obviously much broader than that. I think there's been so many stories in sort of the main press on crypto and obviously in trade papers and that sort of thing, that anytime a regulator speaks, I think it's pretty important, right? So when I saw those remarks, I noticed a couple things. Number one, obviously, the fact that regulators speak at things like a blockchain summit is pretty important. So obviously, they're serious about understanding and oversight and all that, but also it shows that they are, both doing their homework and trying to figure out where things fit. And looking at his comments, he didn't shy away from the fact. He says it right up front. He says, "I'm a crypto skeptic." He didn't say he's against it. He said, "I'm a skeptic," and he thought that it was important to sort of identify some of the things that happened recently and where that fits within his worldview, if you will, on cryptocurrency.
Yes, agreed. And I and you and I talked about this before we started recording. I think it's okay. In fact, I'm more comfortable with, at least in the U.S., the federal bank regulators and in other places around the world, for the regulators to be taking a cautious approach to how to integrate crypto and other virtual currencies into the overall financial markets to ensure safety and soundness. That's certainly a primary issue in the US, primary regulatory requirement or obligation, and also stability in the financial markets, because these are new things, and they have their own challenges, as we've seen recently in the most recent cycle of volatility, and in some of the things that acting Comptroller Hsu speaks about. And those include the fact that it's that the marketplace for crypto is very fragmented, and that has made it more susceptible to being hacked. Secondly, that there's a contagion component to some of these things. He talked about the Terra USD stablecoin, its collapse sparking contagion to the largest stablecoin, which is called Tether, and to the broader ecosystem. And then he talked about the fact that custody and ownership rights are underdeveloped for the size and scope and ambitions of the industry. That's a quote from his bullet points. And in there, he talks about the fact that one of the largest centralized exchanges in the United States, disclosed as Terra USD, was collapsing, that in the event that a bankruptcy was filed, that the users of the exchange could be at risk of becoming unsecured creditors.
Right.
For those of our listeners who aren't familiar with that term, that means that they only have a claim on the general assets of the company, not on any specific assets. So it's not as if, like at a bond shop where you're holding a bond in my name, if the bond shop collapses, I have a claim on my particular bond. The ownership of crypto and virtual currencies is just not been built out with that level of clarity, which is another stability issue.
Right. And when you mention contagion, he makes it very clear that the fact the OCC has had a cautious approach has been proven correct, given that there has been no contagion after Terra from cryptocurrencies to traditional banking and finance. He said no banks are under stress or even rumored to be under stress because of the crypto exposure. So he argues that the OCC's oversight of traditional banks and emphasis on safety and soundness and consumer protection has, withstood this and certainly other stresses against the system. So I think he certainly believes that by continuing to be cautious, that's the way to better understand the market, the crypto market, and better understand how it interacts, where it interacts with the traditional banking system.
Right. He also spends a fair amount of time, and one of his central themes in the conversation is the fact that a lot of the growth in value of the cryptocurrencies has been driven by hype. And he zeroes in on Terra, and talks about the fact that they offered 20% returns to holders who deposited their tokens on the Anchor protocol, which was the platform it was running on. And he describes it as this come for the yield approach is not unique to Terra. And so, if you think about other financial crises we've had in the past in the U.S., sometimes, a disconnect between the fundamentals of finance and economics and how the marketplace was reacting have fueled those things. And I think one of his points is that, at least at this point, there's a lot more hype than fundamental in these markets.
And look, outside of what we're talking about in terms broadly of the economics of all this, how it fits in, to society, on the AML CTF side, law enforcement is still very concerned about potential abuse of cryptocurrencies to move illicit funds. Obviously, they're not totally anonymous, as we know, and our folks in that area that are part of our AML community make that clear, and that there certainly are strong AML professionals that have been hired in that space. So all that's good. But I think we should be paying attention to what the regulators say about this outside of our own AML backyard, if you will. So we care because of understanding about the potential abuse, as we do in the traditional banking space. But I also think it's important, even if we're not experts on the economics of this, to listen to people like the acting comptroller and what Janet Yellen has said and others have said, what FATF is saying about this. They're looking at this, and there's a new executive secretary, and one of the primary priorities they said in that announcement is she's going to have to be paying attention to virtual assets and digital issues and all of that, besides everything else. So this is just another part of the challenge of being an AML professional, is to understand this new and emerging area.
Yeah. which makes it exciting and a little bit crazy. But, that's really what it's been like to be a member of the community for as long as you and I have been doing it. And change isn't all bad, but it can be a little mind-bending at times. So what do you got planned? I know you're talking to some people, and we're going to post those things over the next weeks. What would you like to promo?
Yeah, so a couple things. We're going to be talking to an IRS CI agent who's involved in cybersecurity. We're going to be talking to him about some cases that he's worked on. That'll be next week. After that, our game plan is to sit down with the expert, the world expert, I could say without being hyperbolic, on asset forfeiture, Steph Casella, who's going to talk to us about how asset forfeiture is such an important tool for prosecutors, law enforcement, and others. And just a quick aside, I'd like to mention a colleague of ours from Homeland Security is leaving after 28 years with that agency. That's Ray Villanueva. Ray helped us greatly in putting together the AML Partnership Forum, and we'll stay connected. But Ray is leaving Homeland Security. He's going to go, we don't know what his next steps are, but he's going to continue to be part of the AML community. So I wanted to give a shout out to Ray because of all the great work he's done and his support for partnership. I mean, that to me, like Don Ford on our advisory board, it's just so important that we continue to move the notion of private-public partnership in the AML space. And Ray was certainly a model for that.
Agreed. Yes. Ray, good luck in your next endeavor, or if your next endeavor is truly retirement, good luck at that too. So, all right, John, I will talk to you next week. You have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Elliot, stay safe.
Yep, you too. Bye-bye.